I had a friend of mine who worked in a restaurant, and one of the guys who worked with saved up his money for 8 years. Went to Vegas and blew it in one day. The most heartbreaking story. This poor guy, I think he was a dishwasher, and he worked there for 8 years.
Yeah.
Like, set aside 50 here, 25 there. Set aside for 8 years.
Yeah.
And I think it was some good amount of money, like $30,000.
Shit.
The time when you're young, when you're having fun, is so fleeting.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden responsibilities stack up. And all of a sudden, you know, you have to pay bills. You have obligations. You have so much that you have to think about.
Yeah.
For so many people, there's this period of their life where they look back to whimsically. Like, that was the time when I was free.
Yeah.
I was young.
And you think anything is possible. I
Yeah.
mean, that's really...
Anything can happen.
That's the loss of innocence, is when you realize at a certain point that you do have to pick a path and stay on it.
Oh, yeah. You better.
Because you got to pay the bills with it. And, you know, and then what's so sad is you see people that work so fucking hard for not a lot of money. And, you know, bills just add up. And then they save just enough when they get their vacation twice a year. They'll go to, like, a cruise, and they'll just drink nonstop for a week. And at the end of it, they're just hungover. They blew the excess money they had. And that was it? That's what you worked all year for? When I wanted a drink, something was going on.
Yeah.
And to this day, I just have that reaction. I know that I still want to drink all the time, but when I really want to drink, I stop and I go, all right, what's stressing you out? What do you need to deal with? And then I just kind of focus on it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was, when I was a kid, my dad was an architect, and so I worked on a lot of construction sites, and I met a lot of junkies. A lot of junkies. A lot of people on construction sites are either alcoholics or drug addicts. And there was this one guy that I really liked. He's a funny guy, man. Really funny guy, and he's in a band. His name is Robbie. Funny fucking dude. Loved hanging around with him. But just couldn't stay off the coke.
Wow.
Couldn't stay off the coke. And you could totally tell. He'd be honest about it too. Say how he went off the rails, and we would be working together. He was a carpenter, and I was, like a laborer, so I was like an apprentice. And so he'd be, talking to me while he's explaining to me how to do things and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, I'm just fucking tired of this. I'm getting my shit together. The band's getting back together again. We're writing songs and this and that. And then he'd come in Monday looking like shit. Just looking like shit. Real grumpy. Didn't want to talk. Had a headache.
Yeah.
And, and he'd admit it, went off the rails.
Right. The saddest thing is that when you first start doing drugs, and I don't know about you, but I had a phenomenal time doing cocaine. Mushrooms and all the stuff I did as a teenager was like, I never got hooked on it. And if you do it, maybe I did coke 50 times without ever getting hooked. It's a blast. That's the best kept secret. But then once you get hooked, you're not even having fun anymore. You're just maintaining. You're just feeding it so you don't crash. With heroin, you're just trying to avoid withdrawals. You're not even feeling that great anymore.
I think with Robbie, too, part of the problem was he was very disappointed in himself.
Yeah.
It was booze, too. He would just go off the rails and try to keep it together. It's like there's a lot of people out there that they have a dream, and then the pressure of trying to reach that dream, like his dream is to be in a successful band, right? And the pressure of trying to reach that dream and see it to fruition, it just seems unreachable.
Yeah.
It seems too far off. And here you are, you're in your 30s, and you're working in a construction job, and you work all day in Boston in the winter. You're tired as when you get home. You don't want to go to band practice.
Yeah.
You get home at 6:30, you have dinner, and now it's 7:30. You got to get up.
Right.
You got to get up in a few hours.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? When are you going to bed? You got to get up at 6. Like,
then you go to
fuck.
band practice and the drummer doesn't show up, so
Right.
you can't practice. Or
he's 45 minutes late, his car breaks down, and you're pissed, and your girlfriend's screaming at you.
You can't plan for how
Right.
you're going to feel 2 drinks in because you get drunk, and then it just keeps going.
Yeah,
I miss it, man. Even
I have a bit about that, about drunk driving. The problem is not whether or not you can drive drunk. The problem is even thinking that you can drive drunk, because when you're drunk, you don't know what the fuck you can do or can't do.
Yes.
You think that's why guys get in fights with people way bigger than them when they're drunk, and they don't even know how to fight.
you're stupider when you're drunk.
You're a when you're drunk. So the idea that you could drive drunk, like, I'm fine. Like, you don't even know if you're fine. That's the problem.
Yes.
The problem is you're drunk.
And that's a big part of the book, is talking to people about this liquid courage that everyone cites. I mean, like, I need a drink because I can't go on stage if I don't have a drink. I need a drink to talk to the girl. And it's not courage. What you're doing is you're making yourself more stupid.
I've never had a problem with drinking and like, it's never been like, God, I need a drink. I've never been like, like Sober October was the first time I did absolutely nothing for a whole month. I didn't smoke a joint. I didn't do mushrooms. I didn't, nothing, right? It wasn't that hard. What was interesting about it was the dreams, first of all, because the dreams come hard and fast when you're off the weed. And because apparently I talked to this guy, Dr. Matthew Walker, who's a dream specialist, and he was on the podcast discussing the importance of sleep specialist, I should say. Yeah. But he was saying that marijuana, it impedes certain aspects of REM sleep, which is when you do all your dreaming. So when you get off the marijuana, your brain apparently makes up for lost time and hits you with some crazy talking frogs and unicorns and roller coasters that go straight to heaven and like fucking bananas dreams.
Did you have that? Are you having that?
Oh my God. Well, the thing is, this time for Sober October, I was way tapered off by the time this rolled around. Like, I smoked a little pot in Toronto on Saturday, but I mean a little. Like, I took like 1 or 2 hits. I had a drink, maybe 2 drinks. I think I had 1 drink when I went on stage, and then I had a couple of glasses of wine after the show. We went out to this restaurant after the show. But yeah, this was an easy one because I was kind of but I think I slowed down after last year. I think doing that Sober October thing made me realize, like, there's some I'm of that school that, right, unfortunately, that all my favorite comics did drugs. All of them. Yeah. Hicks, Kinison, Pryor, everyone did drugs. They were all, I mean, Pryor was coke. I've never touched coke, but Kinison was coke too. But Hicks was more psychedelics, and I mean, he did coke and alcohol and all that other stuff before. But they were all like these wild fucks. Like Ron White is a good friend of mine, always drunk. And there's like this part of that life that, it's so attractive because it's just like this wild, loose, carefree, rebellious, figured out tomorrow life. And that's the life of the comic. But I realized, like, after last year's Sober October, that there's a lot of that stuff you could do if you're sober. Like, and it's, I think, as I said, you can abuse alcohol, but you can also use it. You can use it. You can have a couple drinks and feel good, and you enjoy the moment more. There's something to it, but it's really a matter of your own personality and discipline. It's like, how much of an addict are you? Like, what is it? What holes are missing in your brain that get filled up with that booze, and that, like, once you take the booze away, there's like this gaping chasm that you need to fill. What is that? And you got to figure out who you are, because I know some people that can't have anything. They have 1 drink and then they're off to the races and they're doing meth.
If we continue to consume that substance or engage in that behavior, it ultimately actually puts us in a dopamine deficit state, such that we want to continue to do that behavior, not to feel good, but just to stop feeling bad. And that's kind of one of the fundamental things about the disease of addiction. It's innate vulnerability to start, added to the changes that occur in the brain as a result of ongoing consumption of our drug. And those brain changes are what drive continued compulsive use.
So that's the difference between being enthusiastic about something that you enjoy versus something that consumes your life. So you're kind of chasing the dragon, like the initial, like that's what they talk about it with heroin addiction, right? Don't they say chasing the dragon?
Yeah.
The initial rush that you get from the first uses of it, you're always chasing that, but really what you're doing later on in life is just trying to not be sick.
Yes.
Not having it in your body makes you feel terrible. I've done a lot. I've smoked a lot of pot, and I've done psychedelics, and I talk about them openly. I have hesitation about telling people that I've enjoyed a cigarette.
Why?
Because I
to
think
them.
it's so bad for you. I think when I talk about doing mushrooms, I think mushrooms are good for you. I think it makes you freak out. I think it illuminates parts of your consciousness that I think a lot of people guard and protect and shield. And I think sometimes doing something that breaks down those walls is good for you ultimately overall. There's a little bit of an adjustment period, but I think you learn something about the normal state of consciousness. I don't think you learn much when you smoke cigarettes. I just think there's just a little bit of a head rush that you get out of it. But I know so many people that are sick from cigarettes, so many people that can't quit them, so many people that have died from cancer. I mean, I personally have known several people that have died from cancer from smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
So I hesitate in saying it. But I don't want to be dishonest. I've had them.
Yeah.
I don't smoke cigarettes, though. I've never bought a pack. That's a cigar. I've smoked cigars. I like them sometimes. I just think it's a terrible thing to get hooked on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as I would say the same thing with alcohol. I know people that have had real problems with alcohol, that have been alcoholics, and they have to go to meetings, and they're on 12-step programs, and I would never offer them a drink. But if you said, hey, let's do a shot right now, let's celebrate, this is a wonderful conversation, let's have a glass of whiskey, I can have a glass of whiskey and not drink again. It doesn't bother me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have that, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But some people do.
Yeah.
I hesitate in glorifying that too.
Yeah.
And for young people, it scares the shit out of me. If I see, I probably drank for the first time when I was probably I was in high school. I think it was probably 14 or 15. First time I ever got drunk with my friends. We got a hold of some Jack Daniels or something, and it made me throw up
It's
every
the
time I
Irish
smelled
legal
it.
drinking age.
Yes.
in
Well,
Boston.
it's just friends, listening to
Yeah.
classic rock and getting drunk in Boston.